flight mode land.
Hello again, it's SkyPilot here. Yep, this is the HGLRC Sector V2 5-inch Freestyle racing drone. If you've just purchased one of these and you're about to switch it on, plug in your battery, hook it up to beta flight, you're going to want to watch this. Because you may have some binding issues that I had, or you may not. So welcome guys, this is the HGLRC as just mentioned. Now I did spend a bit of time yesterday hooking it up to beta flight and going through the procedure for binding it with my Tyrannus. When you purchase this drone straight out the box, you will receive a couple of pieces of paper. Neither of them really help you with the binding. That one certainly doesn't. This is the FR Sky instructions for the XM Plus receiver. You got it linked down below again. See where you get it from. Grab yourself a bargain. You can get this without the receiver if you like. So you can chuck in your DJI receiver as well if you want. Back to the topic though, binding procedure doesn't really help you in this instruction manual at all. I know that because I've tried it. So what you need to do, you guys probably know this anyway, so that those who don't know don't waste 2 hours of their time trying to sort it out. So I'm also going to break down what happens in beta flight. You don't need to change much in beta flight, but you do need to make sure 3 things have been changed. Otherwise you won't be able to hook it up to your Tyrannus or like receiver. The first thing you're going to look for is a bind button. Now the bind button is on the VTX down here, and I don't know if you guys can see it. The bind button is on the FR Sky receiver down there, and if you're wondering where is it, I can't see it. Well, I sort of couldn't either. I just looked at the little antennas and followed the wires, and it's actually sitting directly underneath the VTX here. You can just see yeah, a little bit of green there. The wires and the lights are at the back there, which makes it also quite hard to see. So using my pencil of precision, you need to take off these 4 bolts here, little hex heads, just unscrew, and that will allow you to just move the entire VTX over, and it will present to you underneath. It will present to you underneath the VTX is your bind button right at the back here. It's actually a little bit harder to press because they've wrapped it in plastic heat shrink. It is transparent, so you can actually still see it, but bear that in mind when you're pushing down on your button here to bind. So to bind it, I'll go through the setup on the Tyrannus shortly, but the procedure is pretty simple once you've once you've discovered where the bind button is and you can get to it. What you do, so your procedure is going to be to press the bind button, hook up your battery, and you'll see the 2 lights on the receiver start to flash. Once they're flashing, that means you're in bind mode. Turn on your Tyrannus, whack the bind button on your Tyrannus or whatever you're using, and you'll see the flashing lights go to solid. Then pull out the battery, turn off your transmitter and plug the battery back in, and you'll see those two lights that were flashing. You'll now be presented with one green light that's solid. You can then put it all back together again, because is done. Do make sure you've got your lollipop on. If your lollipop's not on, you could burn out your VTX. And also, if your lollipop's not on and you try and do a cold start, it won't fire up. Beta flight now, and I'll show you guys a couple of things that you need to change on this in order to get your Sector 5 in the sky. So once your USB has been plugged into your stack like so, you'll see a green flashing LED and a solid red, and hook her up to Betaflight. So once you've hooked it up to Betaflight, just make sure your gyros and everything are working correctly, and it is actually talking to the program. So the first thing that you're going to do, guys, is just make sure these are default D-Shot 1200, and the motor stop and the throttle value should be 4.5. I didn't touch those. I didn't touch anything else here. I did change the actual craft name, but that's neither here nor there. Now make sure down here, serial base receiver is selected. It doesn't matter which one of these you pick. What's going to happen is it's going to default back to this one anyway. So you'll find you can't actually change that if you have the XM Plus installed. Now down here is where it gets confusing, because for some reason Betaflight had selected FR Sky F port. I don't know why. What needs to be selected is S bus. If you don't have S bus selected, it will not bind to your Tyrannus. And that's basically it. Make sure all of your throttle values and yours and pictures are all working, so successfully bound. You will also need to change, lastly, depending on how you've got your transmitter set up, to TAER 1234, otherwise you'll find your throttles and yours are all incorrect in higgledy. And that's it, guys. That's all you need to do. Goes without saying to make sure your modes are all selected. I have, for the time being, just selected the arm, angle, horizon and beeper. Make sure they're all set properly and you are good to go. Shall disconnect it. So, short, sharp and shiny, but it's mainly that S bus that needs to be selected, otherwise you'll find they won't talk to each other. Okay, not too sure if you guys can see that, hopefully you can. So you need to make sure that when you are programming in, the Sector 5, there's a couple of things you need to do here in order to make it bind. Also is make sure that you're in D16 mode. Channel 128 is selected. Your AX number, that's up to you, and it's as simple as that. You don't need to have 1 to 16 as its channel range is predetermined anyway. So ensure you're on D16, and basically you just channel 1 to 8 telemetry on and go bind. So that's as simple as it gets, and you'll find that you have finally bound your Sector 5 in about 6 to 7 minutes instead of about an hour. I know most of you guys will probably do that in 2 seconds. However, not everybody out there is an expert, and yeah, it's good to get some advice from other users who have spent lots of time problem solving like I had in this instance. So, good stuff. Thanks for dropping by. I'm going down to the PO to grab my 4S battery, which should be here, as I need to get this thing flying so I can show you guys just how cool it really is. Awesome. In the meantime, do yourself a favour and check out my Baby Hawk R Pro footage I took with my little QC camera on top. It's not too bad at all. There's a quick plug. See you next video. See you in the sky. SkyPilot. Catch you later.